I didn't tell my wife my cousin is insanely wealthy. So, my cousin Amy won like $30 million when she was 23. Just straight up lottery money. Nobody really talks about it because she doesn't act like it at all. She bought this huge farm with her husband, Greg, and they just live there raising cattle and chickens, and whatever else. Greg's a pipe welder, so he makes decent money on his own. And the farm brings in cash, too. So the lottery money just sits there mostly. She set up college funds for every kid in our family and paid for her siblings to go to school. That's like her thing. She uses the money for good stuff, but doesn't flex about it. When you see Amy and Greg at the grocery store, you'd never guess. She drives this beat-up farm truck that looks like it's been through 3 tornadoes. Or she's in the Bronco. Greg got her when their last kid was born. They wear jeans and boots everywhere. Their house is nice, but it's not like mansion nice. It's just a really solid farmhouse with a big barn. My wife Danielle is a total opposite. She's a nurse practitioner in some specialty field and makes bank. And she wants everyone to know it. New car every 2 years, designer purse, the whole deal. She brings up her salary in random conversations. I work in aviation and make about the same as her. So we're comfortable. But we're not Amy level rich. Here's the thing. I never really explained Amy's situation to Danielle because it never came up. Like, Danielle knew Amy had a farm and that we got our meat and eggs from there. But I guess she just assumed they were struggling or something. I didn't know that's what she thought. Last month, my other cousin got married and had the wedding at Amy's place. They cleaned out the barn and set up everything by the pond, and it looked amazing. That's when Danielle saw the property for real. Like the full property with the nice house and the huge barn and the pastures that go on forever. We pull up and Danielle goes, "Wait, this is Amy's place?" I'm like, "Yeah," and she just stares. We walk through the barn and it's all decorated with lights and the pond has this whole setup with flowers and she keeps looking around like she's doing math in her head. After the ceremony, we're at the reception and Danielle corners me by the food table. "How big is this place?" "I don't know. Like 200 acres, maybe." Her face goes red. 200 acres? How much is land worth out here? I shrug because I honestly don't keep track of that stuff. She pulls out her phone and starts Googling property values, and I can see her getting more mad with every search result. Then Maya mentions something about Amy paying for her nephew's engineering degree, and Danielle just freezes. She grabs my arm. "What did she just say?" "Amy paid for it," I say, and Danielle's eyes go huge. "With what money?" "She won the lottery years ago." Danielle doesn't talk to me for the rest of the wedding. We get in the car after, and she's silent the whole drive. Then right when we pull into our driveway, she goes, "You made me look like an idiot." "What are you talking about?" "I've been bringing vegetables to work from Amy's farm." I told everyone she was a sweet, struggling farmer. I made a whole thing about supporting local agriculture, and now I find out she's a millionaire. Does that change the vegetables? It changes everything. I look stupid today. Your aunt kept talking about the college fund and Amy's charity work and I just stood there with no idea what anyone was talking about. I tried to explain that it never seemed important to bring up that Amy doesn't act rich, so it doesn't matter. But Danielle's not hearing it. She thinks I deliberately hid it to embarrass her, which makes no sense because how would I even know she'd be embarrassed? Danielle stormed into the house ahead of me like she was about to file a police report, instead of just being mildly inconvenienced by someone else's financial status. She tossed her purse on the couch and kicked off her heels like they were the reason she was mad. I closed the door and she spun around so fast I thought she'd get whiplash. "You should have told me," she said, arms crossed, chin lifted like a prosecutor. I told her again that it didn't matter, that Amy never acted rich, that their farm life didn't change just because of the money sitting in the bank. Danielle wasn't listening. She said she spent the whole wedding replaying every conversation she'd ever had at work. All the times she bragged about bringing fresh, humble, homegrown produce from a hardworking family. She said her coworkers were probably laughing behind her back now. I said nobody cared that much. But she said I was being naive. For the next few days she acted like I cheated on her with a billionaire. She kept dropping comments like, "Must be nice having a secret millionaire in the family." Or "Do they fly private and you just forgot to mention it?" It got exhausting, honestly. Then she did something I didn't expect. She started trying to impress Amy. She bought this expensive cheese board set because she read online that wealthy rural families love artisanal charcuterie, which made no sense. But I didn't have the energy to correct her. She started dressing up more, doing her hair nicer whenever we went to visit the farm for eggs or beef. Amy, of course, didn't notice any of this. Amy would be out in the barn with straw in her hair drinking coffee from a chipped mug, completely unaware that Danielle was trying to present herself like she was auditioning to be farm royalty. One Saturday, we drove out to pick up some beef Greg had processed. Danielle insisted on bringing a bottle of high-end wine, even though Amy barely drinks. When we got there, Amy was bottle feeding a calf with mud on her jeans. Danielle walked up smiling like she was hosting a gala and handed her the wine. Amy blinked at it like Danielle had just given her a live snake. "Thanks." Amy said, "I don't know anything about wine, but Greg's brother likes the stuff, I think." Danielle gave me this look like, "See? I'm doing great." But then Amy said the thing that shattered Danielle's whole mission. "Y'all hungry?" Greg just smoked a brisket. "Nothing fancy, but it'll fill you up, nothing fancy." Danielle smiled, but I saw the twitch. Inside the house, Danielle made small talk and tried to weave her job title into every conversation. Meanwhile, Amy was talking about her garden and some cow that kept escaping the fence. At one point, Danielle tried to compliment the house by saying, "It must be so hard maintaining a place this size on a farmer's budget." Amy just laughed. "Oh, the farm money covers all this. We barely touch the lottery account unless it's for family stuff." Danielle went rigid, again. On the drive home she exploded. She said Amy was performing humbleness and that rich people pretend to be simple, to keep everyone guessing. She said Amy was manipulating us, which was insane because Amy barely remembered to brush her own hair. I asked Danielle why Amy's money mattered so much to her. That was the first moment she got quiet. She looked out the window and said, "Because I like being the successful one." And today I felt small, and suddenly it clicked. It was never really about Amy. It was about how Danielle saw herself, how she measured her own worth, how she wanted to be perceived. I told her nobody was competing with her, least of all Amy. I told her Amy used her money to help people, not to rank herself above anyone. And I told her that none of this changed her life at all. After a long silence, she said, "I just don't like being caught off guard, fair enough." But over the next couple of weeks something shifted. Danielle started asking real questions about the farm. She asked Amy if she could help plant vegetables. Amy lit up and said yes because Amy loves anyone who shows interest in dirt. Danielle even helped Greg repair a fence one afternoon. She ruined her shoes, but she didn't complain once. And slowly, they started to get along. No pretending. No impressing. No competition. One day Danielle came home smiling and said, "Amy invited me to help plan the fall festival." Said I'm organized. She looked proud. I told her that was great. She kissed my cheek and said, "Next time, just tell me the truth. Even if you think it doesn't matter." And honestly, fair. Maybe I should have told her earlier. Not because Amy's money meant anything, but because Danielle hates feeling out of the loop. Now she and Amy talk more than I do. They exchange recipes and memes. Danielle even joked that if Amy ever wins the lottery again, she calls dibs on picking the farmhouse tile. I guess it worked out in the end. But I still don't understand why, rich or not, Amy's vegetables somehow tasted exactly the same. Story to my wife's boyfriend, a lawyer, laughed. "The judge is my friend. You're leaving this room with nothing, soldier." My wife smirked. "He's too scared to even speak. Look at him." He slid a paper in front of me. "Sign it now." He had no idea who I really was. Chapter 1: The Insult. The courtroom smelled faintly of old wood and floor polish, the air thick with the low hum of whispers. I sat at the petitioner's table in my uniform's dress blues, not because I needed to, but because I wanted a reminder of who I was before all this. Years in service, countless missions, sacrifices, all now reduced to a divorce hearing. Across from me sat my soon-to-be ex-wife, her manicured nails drumming lightly on the table. Beside her was her boyfriend, a tall, slick-haired attorney with an expensive suit and the kind of smirk that made you want to break something. He leaned back in his chair, glancing at me with lazy confidence. "The judge is my friend. You're leaving this room with nothing, soldier." My wife smiled at him, then turned to me. "He's too scared to even speak. Look at him." The lawyer pulled a document from his briefcase and slid it across the table toward me. "Sign it now." I looked down at the paper. It was a property settlement, one that stripped me of the house, the savings, even my truck. It was robbery, dressed up in legal language. I didn't pick up the pen. Instead, I looked him in the eye. My voice calm, almost casual. "You really have no idea who I am, do you?" Chapter 2: Before the Betrayal. 3 years ago, if you told me I'd be sitting in a courtroom across from her, I would have laughed. Back then, she was my anchor. Or so I thought. We met when I was still in active service. She said she admired my discipline, my loyalty, my sense of duty. I thought she meant it. But I also noticed the way her eyes lit up when we went to events. Not because she was proud to be on my arm, but because she liked the attention. She liked being introduced to powerful people. She liked the way officers' wives would lean in to hear her talk. When I rotated back stateside and took a desk role at the base, things changed. She complained about the hours, about the boring life, about how I wasn't the man she married. I chalked it up to adjustment. Then came the late night work dinners, the phone calls taken in the garage, the sudden obsession with her appearance. I wanted to believe her excuses. I really did. The truth came in the ugliest way possible. I returned home early from a training seminar and found them, her and him, in my living room. Wine glasses on the table, his suit jacket on my chair. He didn't even flinch, just smiled that lawyer's smile and said, "Guess you're home early, soldier." It wasn't just betrayal. It was mockery. And when I learned later that he'd taken her case for our divorce and was connected to the judge, I knew I wasn't walking into a fair fight. But I'd been in unfair fights before, and I'd never gone in unprepared. Chapter 3: The Quiet Setup. Back in the courtroom, I didn't touch the pen he'd slid toward me. Instead, I leaned back, letting them believe I was hesitating out of fear. What they didn't know was that my silence was deliberate. For the past 3 months, I'd been quietly building my own case, not through the typical divorce attorney route, but using the skills and contacts I'd gained in the service. I'd pulled bank records, traced hidden accounts she thought I didn't know about, and gotten statements from mutual friends she burned along the way. More importantly, I documented everything. The affair, the lies, and most damning of all, the shady communication between her boyfriend and the judge. A friend of mine from the CD, Criminal Investigation Division, had helped me set up a perfectly legal wire during one of their celebratory dinners. The arrogance was astounding. They'd openly joked about burying the soldier, and how the judge will sign whatever we put in front of him. All of it I now had on a clean audio file. The file I'd labeled for court exhibits, yet I kept my face unreadable as I glanced toward the judge. He gave a polite but expectant nod, clearly thinking this was going to be over in minutes. The lawyer tapped the document. "Sign it, soldier. Save yourself the humiliation." I almost smiled. "You sure about that?" Chapter 4: Exhibit Z. The judge cleared his throat. "Mr. Walker, either sign the agreement or state your objection." I stood slowly, buttoning my jacket. "Your Honor, I do have an objection and an additional piece of evidence." The lawyer rolled his eyes. "Your Honor, this is a transparent stall tactic. There's no new evidence on record." I reached into my briefcase and set a small digital recorder on the table. "Actually, there is. Labeled for submission as Exhibit Z." The room shifted. Murmurs from the gallery. The clerk straightening in her chair, the judge's brow furrowed. "Proceed." I pressed play. Her boyfriend's voice filled the courtroom, smooth and arrogant. "Don't worry, babe. The judge will sign whatever we put in front of him. We'll bleed him dry and toast to it in cabo." My wife's laughter followed, unmistakable. "He's just scared to fight back. By the time he realizes the house, the accounts, everything will be ours." A gasp rippled through the spectators. My wife's eyes widened. Her lawyer sat frozen for a moment before leaping to his feet. "Objection. This is an invasion of privacy." The judge cut him off sharply. "Overruled. Continue the recording." I did. And the next line was the one I'd been waiting for. Her boyfriend again. "Even if he tries, I'll bury him. The judge is my buddy. We've done this before." Now the judge leaned forward, eyes locked on the lawyer, his voice icy. "Is that your voice, counselor?" The color drained from his face. Chapter 5: The Turn of the Tide. The silence in that courtroom was suffocating. Even the sound of the air conditioner felt loud. The lawyer swallowed hard, his voice suddenly small. "Your Honor, this is taken out of context." The judge slammed his gavel once. "Mr. Cole, you will not insult this court with flimsy excuses. This recording demonstrates clear collusion and misconduct." Balife seized that device for evidence. Tubave stepped forward, one collecting the recorder, the other positioning himself near the lawyer just in case. My wife looked between me and her champion, realization dawning that her supposed ironclad plan had just cracked wide open. The judge turned to me. "Murdoch Walker, I'll be reviewing this evidence thoroughly. For now, all asset transfer requests are frozen pending investigation. Custody arrangements will remain unchanged until this court decides otherwise." I nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Your Honor. I'm confident the full truth will make itself clear." I didn't mention the other pieces of evidence waiting in my folder: photographs, bank transfer logs, and one particularly incriminating email that tied them both to an offshore account. That would come later once the first blow had done its work. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispering urgently, but I could hear enough. "We need to settle before this escalates. If the judge pursues this." Her sharp reply: "Settle. We're not giving him anything." I just smiled to myself because this battle had stopped being about what I get. It was now about how much they'd lose. Chapter 6: The second strike court adjourned early that day. But I didn't go home. I walked straight to the district attorney's office. My CD contact was already waiting in the lobby, a thick folder in his hand. Inside were the rest of my findings. Bank transfers from my wife's joint account with her boyfriend. emails detailing asset hiding, and my personal favorite, a photo of them vacationing in the Maldives last year during a business trip she claimed was to attend a women's leadership conference. The DA flipped through the evidence slowly, her expression hardening. Marie Walker, this isn't just family court fraud. This is conspiracy, financial misconduct, and bribery of a public official. We'll be opening a criminal investigation immediately. By the time I left the DA's office, warrants were already being drafted. The following week, I walked into court again. This time, the atmosphere was different. Tense, charged. My wife's lawyer didn't meet my eyes. Two men in dark suits stood near the back. Internal affairs. The judge took his seat, shuffled some papers, then looked up at the gallery. Before we proceed, this court has been made aware of ongoing criminal inquiries involving parties present. As such, all divorce proceedings are suspended pending the outcome of said investigation. Furthermore, he looked straight at her lawyer. Mr. Cole, you are hereby removed from this case. Balife, please escort Mr. Cole to the side chamber for questioning. The gasp from my wife was almost theatrical. She reached for him, but he didn't even glance back. I leaned toward her just enough so she could hear me. You told me I had no choice. You were right. I didn't. I had to destroy you. Her face went pale. She knew this wasn't over. It was only getting worse. Chapter 7, Total Collapse. 3 weeks later, the story broke. Local news ran the headline, prominent attorney and lover accused of bribing judge, defrauding veteran in divorce case. It spread fast. By the second day, national outlets were replaying snippets of the audio, her laugh, his smug promises over and over. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Most were congratulations. Some were apologies for ever doubting me. Her world, however, was crumbling. Her boyfriend was disbarred within a month and now faced up to 12 years in prison. The judge, his buddy, was suspended pending ethics violations and possible bribery charges. And my wife, she was charged as a co-conspirator. The DA froze her accounts, repossessed her luxury car, and seized a condo she bought for herself with my money. Her family, once smug and vocal, went silent. I heard whispers they'd mortgaged their own home to cover her mounting legal fees. But the real moment, the one I'd been waiting for, came in the final hearing. The new judge looked over the case file, then directly at me. Mr. Walker, in light of overwhelming evidence of misconduct, you were granted full custody of your children, sole ownership of all disputed assets, and immediate dissolution of the marriage. Mrs. Walker was ordered to pay restitution once she is legally able. Her hands shook as the gavel fell. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and said quietly as I passed her, "No other choice, remember?" I walked out of that courtroom free, my kids waiting outside with my father, smiling for the first time in months. Epilogue: the final blow. 2 months after that grocery store encounter, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. Her handwriting shaky, desperate. Inside was a single page. I can't find work. I can't pay rent. Please, just enough to get me through until I find something for the kids' sake. There was no "I'm sorry," no acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just an assumption that I would still bail her out. I placed the letter in a new envelope with a single photo, one I'd taken just last weekend. Me, the kids, my father, and my new partner smiling on the deck of the cabin I just bought in the mountains. On the back, I wrote, "You were right. I had no choice. I chose to live well without you." 2 weeks later, a mutual friend told me she'd been evicted. She was staying in a rundown motel on the edge of town, sharing a room with strangers, and living off what little she could make in cash. Meanwhile, I was signing a contract for a major security project overseas, a 6-figure deal that would set my family up for years. The lesson was simple. Betrayal doesn't just burn bridges. It leaves you stranded on an island you set on fire yourself. And when you watch from a distance, you realize sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't a revenge at all. It's simply walking away and never looking back. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you have think about this story in the comments below. Like the story. If you think the story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy. And subscribe to Revenge Exposed for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.